throwing political opponents in jail on trumped-up charges. It's one of the classic moves of the authoritarian regime. Right now, it seems that President Trump is fantasizing about doing exactly that, with a particular focus on getting his predecessor, former President Obama, as well as other senior figures in his administration. This comes immediately after Director of National Security Tulsi Gabbard declassified a number of documents and released a memo claiming that information was manipulated by the US intelligence community with a view to alleging that Trump had been assisted in the 2016 election by Russian interference. What she specifically said is that the documents, quote, detail a treasonous conspiracy by officials at the highest levels of the Obama White House to subvert the will of the American people and try to usurp the president from fulfilling his mandate. An official government release alleging a treasonous conspiracy. This is obviously not just President Trump posting a bunch of memes on social media. Although, of course, because this is the world we live in these days, yeah, that happened as well. Trump posted an AI-generated video of Obama being arrested, with Trump happily watching on. He reposted an AI-generated series of mugshots of Obama and his senior team, described as the Shady Bunch. And he shared a screenshot of a post by Eric Doherty saying this: breaking. Pro tip, whenever you see a tweet that starts with the word breaking, 9 times out of 10, what follows is complete garbage. Breaking. Representative Anna Paulina Luna just said there must be criminal prosecution and arrests of the Obama deep state officials who fomented the Trump-Russia coup. There needs to be arrests. This is not partisan. Yeah, it kind of is though. This is simply illegal what they did. Usual social media fun, but made somewhat more serious by the fact that Gabbard announced she was turning over evidence of the alleged Obama administration conspiracy to subvert Trump's 2016 victory and presidency to the Department of Justice for criminal referral. The announcement feeds into Trump's long-standing claims that he was the target of a witch hunt over Russian collusion. What do the declassified documents and memo actually show? Well, unless I'm missing something, they seem fairly transparently to be conflating two things. There's the idea that Russia might have used cyber attacks to interfere with the voting machines to actually change the result of the election. That was described in a daily briefing to President Obama during the transition period as being highly unlikely to have been achievable, although there was evidence that Russian hackers had scoped the system out, looking presumably for possible vulnerabilities. And then there's the separate claim, where the intelligence community confirmed that Russian propaganda and disinformation was employed during the election to seek to influence the result. The purpose of Russian messaging seemed to be twofold. One, to cast doubt on the integrity of the electoral process as a whole, which is a standard Russian aim we've seen in recent years, and two, to damage the candidacy specifically of Hillary Clinton. Now, the first one was said to have not happened, but those actions were confirmed. And of course, many in Democrat circles who were absolutely persuaded, maybe by the miracle of wishful thinking, that not only had those things happened, but that Trump himself had colluded with the Russian government in making them happen. That was found not to have been the case. So you have two things. Gabbard's documents seem to suggest that intelligence service briefings that voting machines had not been interfered with meant that they were actually saying there'd been no attempted Russian interference at all. And therefore, when Obama instructed the intelligence services to do a quick review of how they had carried out their operation to identify the tools Moscow used and actions it took to influence the 2016 election, this was being represented as him telling them to make stuff up, having been told it didn't happen. But they were focusing on the thing that did happen, the influence campaign. Tulsi Gabbard got into full frothing at the mouth mode on this. She said this was politicised intelligence that was used as the basis for countless smears seeking to delegitimise President Trump's victory. The years-long Mueller investigation, 2 congressional impeachments, high-level officials being investigated, arrested and thrown in jail, heightened US-Russia tensions and more. And she continued, "It's worse than even politicisation of intelligence. It was manufactured intelligence that sought to achieve President Obama and his team's objective, which was undermining President Trump's presidency and subverting the will of the American people." Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see any of that in the materials that have actually been released. Gabbard said that the following week they would be releasing more detailed information about how this actually took place, so maybe there will be something substantial in that. But I'm kind of thinking, if they had real evidence, the smoking gun, surely it would have been in the opening salvo, because why hold it back? In a surreal moment, Gabbard went on to tell Fox News, "For the American people to have any sense of trust in the integrity of our democratic republic, accountability, action, prosecution, indictments for those who were responsible for trying to steal our democracy is essential for us to make sure that it never happens to our country again." This from the administration that pardoned all these guys. But this is the thing. Authoritarians accuse their opponents of the very things that they themselves do or intend to do. So, if it's a somewhat less than smoking gun situation, for all the heated rhetoric behind it, are we now seeing a bunch of Republicans awkwardly shuffling their feet, trying not to get involved? Hell no. According to Fox News, this was, quote, "a potential blockbuster scandal," in the same way that a photo that looks like a frisbee is a potential blockbuster sighting of an alien spacecraft, but is probably just a frisbee. White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and official Trump Bond villain Stephen Miller said that Gabbard had exposed the startling depths of a seditious coup against the Republic. The forces behind this coup have done and will do anything to protect their grasp on illegal and illegitimate power. Do not underestimate their capabilities or depravities, but we are stronger. Various Republican representatives compared it to Watergate. Senator Mike Lee posted, "The Russiagate hoax was a far more effective attack on our republic and our elections than any foreign adversary could have managed. Those who sold this lie to the American people became the very same villains they invented." Now, Democrats have pointed out, not entirely unreasonably, that this is a pile of horse manure, although I am paraphrasing there. Jim Himes, the ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, referred to the Republican-led 2020 Senate report that had agreed with the previous findings there had been Russian influence. No collusion between Trump and the Russian government, but still irrefutable evidence of Russian meddling. So, what's going on here? First, yes, Trump and MAGA Republicans are jumping on this as something that they can coalesce around to take the attention away from all that constant stuff about Jeffrey Epstein and Trump's links to him and stuff. Absolutely no doubt about that. They seem extraordinarily keen to change the subject. But second, this isn't something that you just pull out of a hat at short notice. Gabbard's department are clearly trawling through all the available evidence, looking for whatever they can find. They're on a mission to find dirt on President Trump's enemies, and the purpose is then to target them with threats of legal process, if not actual prosecutions. The problem they have is that there's nothing there. Not unless there's something more substantial in the documents still to come. Threatening to prosecute your enemies is a relatively hollow threat. If any court in the land would take one look at such a case and give it very short shrift indeed. So, do they actually intend to bring this prosecution? I mean, maybe they've drunk enough of the Kool-Aid that they genuinely believe they talked themselves into thinking that this is proof of something. Willful blindness is a known phenomenon. Maybe they believe if they can only get it in front of the right judge, truly an Emile Bove amongst judges, then they could get a conviction anyway. More likely, they must know full well this wouldn't fly in court. So this is about providing a different narrative to the MAGA base, feeding their belief that the lot that came before were the actual criminals. Therefore, whatever happens over the next 3.5 years shouldn't be judged except on that standard. Expect a whole new barrage of whataboutery in the future. Now, it could be that Trump is hopeful he will get an actual action against another Democrat figure, California Senator Adam Schiff. Trump posted on social media that Schiff was in big trouble and should be sent to prison for alleged falsified loan documents. This is to do with an allegation he'd falsely claimed a home in Maryland was his primary residence that the president said had been tipped off to him about by the lender Fannie Mae, which seems unlikely, but given how corporations have been capitulating to Trump on demand, maybe not beyond the bounds of possibility. This is the flavour of it now. MAGA supporters on social media are constantly to be found calling for the arrest and imprisonment of various opposition figures. It's good to know that if the US administration does finally arrive at the destination of, full-on fascism, so many of those supporters will absolutely be there for it. All that stuff about respecting the Constitution turned out to be a remarkably pliable commitment. It's easy to look at this and assume it's just another clown show. Can't go anywhere because it has no merit, just there to grab attention, directed away from a negative. That may be true for now, but it did reveal, not for the first time, that Trump's intelligence and justice departments are on the prowl, looking for the first of their opponents that they can discredit and use the law to bring down. It's an indicator. If a Trump revolution continues along the same lines, to the degree where there is sufficiently loyalist judiciary that even cases without legal merit can get through, then you should expect to see the floodgates open. Unlikely this is anything today but a shadow of that. But nobody sensible should ignore what it says about the direction of travel.